Hey folks, this is Kalani. Season 4 of Dragonflight is here, bringing us a huge dungeon overhaul, much higher item level rewards from the rotating awakened content, and a new currency, the Antique Bronze Bullion, which allows you to directly buy your best in slot gear from new vendors. This currency is very limited and only comes from one source, so let's go over what you should do first in Season 4 to avoid wasting these precious Antique Bronze Bullions. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. The first thing you're going to want to do in Season 4 is pop by the Dragon Isles Emissary by the Fountain in Valdrakken. There is a new weekly quest here called Last Hurrah, Dragon Isles, Zaralek Caverns or Amir Drasil. Only one of the quests will be available each week, and this ties into the Awakened rotation. So the weekly quest that is available tells you which zone or which patch's worth of content, and therefore which raid is awakened in the current week. We can see that for this first week, the Dragon Isles are empowered or awakened. That means the Vault of the Incarnates is our awakened raid for the week, and all of the content related to the Dragon Isles is also awakened, including world content and world bosses. Another way you can check which raid or area is awakened is to open the dungeon journal, go to Dragonflight raids, and then the current awakened raid will have this special icon, so that's another way to check which areas of the game will reward you with the better loot each week. Knowing what is awakened for the current week is probably the most important thing to keep track of in Season 4, as it changes the rewards of almost every type of content. From what we know, we're going to rotate every week to the next raid or patch, so we start with Dragon Isles, then Zaralek Cavern, then Amir Drasil, go back to the Dragon Isles, then Zaralek, then Amir Drasil once more, and then after that, on the 7th week of the season, everything will be awakened at once, so we won't have to keep track of it past that point. The Awakened rotation is also going to dictate how you can get your special new Season 4 currency, the Antique Bronze Bullion. This only comes from one source from what we know of so far, Awakened raid bosses. So it's only raid bosses and only from the currently awakened raid. If you head inside the other raids hoping for some bullions, you're going to be very disappointed. The good news is that LFR bosses do count. You can hop into the Awakened LFR raid. Again, you're going to see the icon on the appropriate LFR queues and get some easy boss kills that way. There's no quest that you need to pick up, you just get the bullion as loot from any raid boss kill. It doesn't seem to be guaranteed, but most of my characters did get it on their very first kill. I did see a few folks get theirs on the second or third bosses in the LFR wing, so it's probably just a really high drop chance from any raid boss kill. It might take one kill or it might take 3, but you shouldn't have to clear the entire raid to get your bullion, and you don't have to go into normal or heroic to secure them either. LFR is just fine, so everyone can get their hands on this pretty easily. Now, as for the raids themselves, while we're talking about it, there actually aren't any changes in Season 4 to the raids themselves, it's just higher item level rewards. So if you like the raids and you want to progress through them again, go for it. You can get some really high item level gear, but there isn't really anything new there for Season 4. Now you can only get 1 bullion per week, but the cap is cumulative, which means if you don't get any bullions for a few weeks, you can still catch up to everyone else. You just need to kill a few more raid bosses in that week. This is going to be great for alts especially, as you don't have to keep them up to date each week. You can just play them and kill a bunch of bosses and get a bunch of bullions whenever you want to. You can spend your bullions at some new vendors in the Parting Glass, which is an inn in the Bronze Enclave in Valdrakken. There's a vendor for each of the 3 Dragonflight raids, and they're going to sell weapons, rings, and trinkets from the raid. They also sell very rare items like the cloak from Aberrus. Each piece of gear will set you back 2 bullions, so 2 weeks worth of earnings, but that at least gives us a very good idea of when we can pick up new items. All of these pieces of gear can be upgraded 12 or 14 times for the very rare stuff, which means they can be upgraded to be on par and equivalent with 4 of 4 myth gear or even higher. So it can basically be upgraded to be the very best gear in the game, which is kinda crazy. You will never need to replace the gear you buy from this vendor, so it's the most powerful source during Season 4 because you get to pick what you actually buy. Now there is another vendor in here who accepts bullions. This vendor sells transmogs for each colour variation of each weapon from each Dragonflight raid, so if you're wanting to pick up something specifically without having to actually go into the raid and hope for the drop, you can directly buy whatever you want from this vendor. They also sell the Jigglesworth Senior Mount, which was the special mount reward from the Shadowlands Fated season. This hasn't been obtainable any other way, so if you want to pick that up, it is going to cost you 3 bullions. Now, because bullions are character based and you can get one per character per week, I would personally use your main character's bullions on gear and then use an alt or two to pick up any transmogs you might want, or the mount if you're missing that. I wouldn't use 3 weeks of progress on my main to get the mount, but I guess if you don't have any alts, you are going to have to make some tough choices here. Maybe it's time to get an alt or two leveled up to take advantage of these kinds of events. Now, if we get 1 bullion per week and the season lasts until about the end of Dragonflight, which is currently looking to be around about late August, that means we should be able to get about 16 to 17 bullions, and that's if the dev team doesn't increase the rate at which we can acquire them later on in the season, which they very well might do. That's quite a few pieces of gear and a lot of transmogs you can collect, especially if you are playing multiple characters. You can buy 1 piece of gear every 2 weeks, or 1 transmog every week per character that you decide to play, so it really just depends on what you want to focus on. So that's how you can get your bullions and how to spend them, but what about some other things to do in Season 4? Well, that weekly quest we mentioned earlier is going to provide you with quite a few powerful bonuses, and all you have to do is take part in some world content. To start with, it rewards you with a box of gear that contains champion gear, which is item level 493 in the new season, so that's pretty huge for something that only requires open world content. The other big reward is the weekly splintered spark for crafting. Each week we'll get 1 splinter, and you need 2 splinters to combine them into 1 spark. In Season 4 we will be collecting the Sparks of Awakening, which can be used to craft or upgrade existing crafted gear to item level 502. You can then use Enchanted Worm Crests to upgrade it to 515, or Enchanted Aspect Crests to upgrade it to item level 525. So Sparks will yet again open up even more high item level gearing opportunities. The weekly quest is also going to point you towards the other empowered content for the week, so that's nice as well, just in case you weren't playing during those patches and you're not sure what would actually count as awakened content. If you're interested in more quick easy gear, you can also take part in the outdoor world content that is awakened for that week. While the Dragon Isles are awakened, you're looking at the Siege of Dragonbane Keep, the Community Soup in Iskara, and the Grand Hunts across the Dragon Isles. For Zaralek Cavern, that's going to be the Researchers Under Fire event and the Farak Assaults. And then for Mirdrasil, it's going to be the Super Bloom and other world content in that zone. While awakened, all of this content can reward you with item level 480 gear on the Veteran track, so it's going to be pretty huge for gearing up alts or any open world content players who don't want to jump into the deep end of Mythic Plus dungeons or higher difficulty raids. The world boss tied to the Awakened rotation can also drop better gear, so the Dragon Isles world boss, the Zaralek Cavern world boss, or the Mirdrasil world boss, and while awakened they can drop item level 499 gear, which is kinda crazy, so be sure you're killing the world bosses as well. Most of this content also seems to reward you with a Cache of Storms, which contains Drake Crests and even more veteran track gear, so you can gear up very quickly using outdoor world content. The area or patches worth of content that is awakened will also provide you with a reputation bonus for the factions related to that content. So for example, this week while the Dragon Isles are empowered or awakened, you'll earn 50% more rep and renown with the Dragon Scale Expedition, the Morok Centaur, and the Iskara Tuskar. So if you're looking at finishing up some renown and rep farming before Dragonflight ends, paying attention to what is awakened can also help you maximize your rep gains. So you can see paying attention to the awakened weekly rotation is going to be super important for every type of player. Season 4 also introduced a lot of changes to how dungeon difficulty works, and the reward structure was also changed quite a bit, so you might be interested in checking that out. As a baseline, normal dungeons didn't really change, but heroic dungeons will now be as difficult as and reward gear on par with what Mythic Zero dungeons used to be. So it's not just a teeny bit higher than normal anymore, there's now a decent gap between normal and heroic, but this means you can now queue into heroic dungeons and get item level 476 gear, which is way better than what it used to be. These dungeons also contribute to your weekly vault, and the rewards there have been increased significantly as well. So heroic dungeon queues can reward you with item level 489 in your weekly vault, making them even more valuable, especially for queuable content, and that's going to be a great way to gear up your alts as well. But the big changes come in after that. Mythic Zero dungeons are now where a Mythic plus 10 key used to be, so that entire progression path of Mythic plus 2 to plus 10 has kind of been stripped out, and you now start up at that old plus 10 mark with the new Mythic Zeros. The good news here is that even though they are more difficult now, Mythic Zero dungeons still do not have any timers or affixes, so there's no pressure to go go go. You can complete them at your own pace, and you'll be rewarded with item level 493 gear, which is on par with normal normal raid gear. So you can get normal raid gear without the timers or pressure of the Mythic Plus Keystone system. That's pretty huge, and I think it will encourage a lot more folks to hop into endgame dungeons, and who knows, if you can master these harder Mythic dungeons, stepping into Mythic Plus might be that much easier as well. If you want an extra challenge, the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon also has a new hard mode that can reward you with Hero Track gear, which is item level 506 in Season 4, so that's another huge reward you can chase after without the stress of Mythic Plus. Now this week is also TBC Timewalking, giving you yet another source of very easy high item level gear. If you complete the weekly quest, you can get a cache with item level 493 gear, so that's definitely worth doing. Now unfortunately this cache does seem to be bugged right now, and instead of rewarding an item level 493 piece of gear, it's rewarding item level 395 gear, which is definitely less than ideal with that whole, 100 item level lower part. So I would recommend you do not hand this quest in until Blizzard confirms it has been fixed. Hopefully that won't take too long, but yeah, hold off on that cache for now. You can finish the quest, just don't hand it in. The Timewalking raid is also a great source of gear. Each boss can drop item level 493 gear, and the raid itself is super easy to work through. All of this gear can be upgraded just like anything else in Season 4 as well, so it is a great event for the first week of the season to help everyone gear up. So whether you're wanting to get your hands on some easy high item level gear, collect transmogs from the raid, or just pass the time until the Mists of Pandaria event kicks off, you've got quite a bit to keep you busy in Season 4. So that's everything we recommend you do first in Season 4 of Dragonflight, and how to get and best make use of your Antique Bronze Bullions. What are you going to focus on in Season 4? How do you feel about Bullions just simply dropping from raid bosses, and what are you going to buy first? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video with a special shout out at the start of the next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon or click the join button just below this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.